They say the eyes can deceive, but the heart? The heart always knows when something isn't right. And on that humid morning in Ibadan, beneath the wide orange sky and the smell of dust and roasted corn, the heart of a young woman began to whisper a truth she could no longer silence. Her name was Adunni, the bride everyone called the lucky one. Her beauty carried the kind of quiet grace that made people lower their voices when she walked by. Skin the color of rich palm oil, eyes that held both laughter and storm. She was the kind of woman who made the world look brighter just by standing still. And that morning, she was to be married to Folarin, a man respected, handsome, and generous. A man who had built his reputation like a wall, brick by brick, until people began to bow before him. He was the groom every mother prayed for, and the groom every man envied. But walls, my friend, walls can hide many things. The sun had just risen over Badija when the talking drums began. Women in gele moved like ocean waves, ululating and singing songs of joy. The air was thick with perfume, sweat, and jollof rice smoke. Children ran between chairs, men argued about parking space, and the elders sat with their fans, nodding at everything and nothing. It was a perfect day for a wedding, or so it seemed. Adunni sat inside her mother's house, surrounded by aunties who adjusted her wrapper, powdered her cheeks, and teased her with talk of babies and blessings. But her hands trembled. She had not eaten, she had not slept, because something inside her, something deep and old, would not let her rest. The old Yoruba say, "It is the heart that keeps a person awake." And that morning, Adunni's heart was wide awake. She had seen something days before, a small thing, something that most would have ignored, a shadow of worry, a glance too quick to explain. Folarin had returned from a business trip to Lagos with tired eyes and a smile that never reached them. He carried his phone like a secret, and when she asked if he was all right, he kissed her hand and said, "Everything is fine, my love." But fine, that word, it can hide 1,000 storms. Now the women outside began to call her name. The drummers struck harder. Her mother burst in, radiant in her lace, saying, "Adunni, the groom is here. Come, my child. The people are waiting." But Adunni did not move. Her eyes were fixed on her reflection in the small hand mirror before her, the same mirror she had used since girlhood, cracked on one side, yet faithful. Only this time, her reflection did not smile back. Something inside her broke, and before anyone could stop her, Adunni stood, lifted her gele, and walked out through the back door, barefoot. No driver, no phone, no goodbye. She ran through the narrow alleys behind the compound, past the boys frying poof-poof, past the motorbikes shouting for space. The hem of her iro tore against the stones. Her beads clattered. The drummers played on, unaware that the bride had vanished. By the time they noticed, the entire street was chaos. Voices rose. Cameras turned. "Where is the bride? She was here a moment ago." The groom stood before the crowd, still in his white agbada, still smiling, though that smile now looked like it had been carved from wood. He waved off the noise. He said softly, "She will come. She is only nervous." But his hand would not leave his pocket. One of the photographers, a young man named Kehinde, had noticed. He had been filming from the side, documenting every laugh, every tear, every dance step. But now he turned his lens toward the groom, and what he saw through that camera would later change everything. When they finally found Adunni hours later, she was sitting by the old river near Iana Church, the same place her grandmother used to fetch water when she was a girl. Her makeup had melted, her wrapper was soaked, but her eyes were clear, like someone who had woken from a long dream. People asked, begged, shouted. "Why did you run?" they demanded, but she only said one thing. "Ask him what he carries in his pocket." The next day, Kehinde uploaded the footage he had taken. He said he felt people deserved to know. And in that clip, just a few seconds long, you could see it. As the elders gathered, Folarin's phone slipped slightly from his pocket, and a folded photograph fell out. It was a picture of another woman. A woman in mourning clothes, standing beside a fresh grave. And on the back of the photo, written in hurried handwriting, were the words, "Till we meet again, my true wife." The crowd froze when they saw it. The whispers turned into thunder, for it turned out Folarin had been married before, to a woman who died under strange circumstances only months earlier. And rumor had it that her death had come too soon, too quietly, and with too many unanswered questions. The elders gathered that night in the compound. They spoke in low tones, voices heavy with both shame and relief. Someone said, "The ancestors protected that girl." Another muttered, "The dead do not rest when the living pretend." As for Folarin, he disappeared from Ibadan soon after. No one saw him again. Some say he went abroad. Others whisper that he returned to the village of his fathers and lost his mind. But one old woman, who sold herbs near the market, said she saw him months later, sitting by the same river where Adunni had once wept, talking to himself, holding that same photograph. And Adunni, she never married again. Not because she was afraid, no, but because she had learned something that day. That love built on secrets is like a house without a roof. It may stand tall for a while, but the first rain will tell the truth. Years later, when she opened her own bridal shop in Dugbe, she hung no mirrors on the walls. People asked why. She only smiled and said, "A woman does not need a mirror to see what her heart already knows." And if you walk into that shop today, the one painted cream and gold beside the tailor's stall, you'll find brides laughing, trying on headgear, dreaming of forever. But above the doorway hangs a small sign, hand-carved in wood. It says, "There is nothing hidden that will not be revealed." Sometimes, when the afternoon light hits that sign just right, it glows like fire, and the old women passing by nod to themselves, whispering, she was wise to run." Because in this world, my friend, not every hand that feeds you wishes you well. And sometimes the spirit of the one who came before, the one who was wronged, will find a way to speak, even through a camera's lens. Ibadan remembers. The walls remember. And every time the drums of marriage begin to sound in that city, someone will always whisper the name Adunni, the bride who ran before it was too late. Because the truth, no matter how long it hides in a man's pocket, will always find its way into the light. And that, my friend, is the story the city still tells, of a wedding that never was, and a woman who chose truth over ceremony. As the elders say, even a bad story can become a good lesson one day. So if you ever find yourself standing before love and something in your spirit hesitates, listen, for the heart, like the drum, never beats without reason.